Welcome back everyone, it is Mike from ManaHoarders. In this video we are bringing you a commander deck tech for a Rakdos commander, Juri, Master of the Revue. You can cast Juri for 1 black and 1 red, you get a 1/1 human shaman. The first ability reads, whenever you sacrifice a permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on Juri. Also, whenever Juri dies, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. Before we dive into the deck, let's go over a few key points. First up, the final price for this build came in at $75.02. This does include the price of our commander and all of our lands. Now do bear in mind these prices will vary greatly depending on the quality of the cards you purchase, the vendor you use, and a variety of other factors. In terms of power level, I would rate this build around a 6 out of 10 on the power scale. We do have a bit of an aristocrats theme, so we have plenty of creatures that we can sacrifice or that are able to sacrifice themselves for value. But the benefit of this commander is it's whenever we sacrifice a permanent, so we do have some artifacts that we can sacrifice and some lands to generate even more value. An important part of this deck is generating tokens, both creature tokens and treasure tokens. This allows us to ramp very quickly, cast large spells, and get way ahead of our opponents. Now let's go ahead and dive into the deck. First up are our artifacts. Armillary Sphere, we can sacrifice to search our library for up to 2 basic land cards and put them into our hand. Elsewhere Flask, whenever it comes into play we can draw a card. We can also sacrifice it and choose a basic land type, and each land we control becomes that type until end of turn. Executioner's Capsule, we can sacrifice it to destroy target non-black creature. Expedition Map, we can pay 2, tap it, and sacrifice it to search our library for a land card, any land card, reveal it, and put it into our hand before we shuffle. Gate to the Afterlife, whenever a non-token creature we control dies, we gain a life, then we can draw a card, but if we do, we have to discard. Golden Egg, whenever it enters the battlefield, we'll draw a card. We can also pay 1 and sack it to add 1 mana of any color. We can also pay 2, tap it, sacrifice it, and gain 3 life. Guild Globe will enter and help us draw a card. We can also pay 2, tap it, sacrifice it, add 2 mana of different colors. Mind Stone gives us 1 colorless mana, but we can also sacrifice it to draw a card. Traveler's Amulet, we can sacrifice to search our library for a basic, reveal it, put it into our hand, and then shuffle. Next up are our enchantments. Burning Anger, the enchanted creature can tap and deal damage to any target equal to its power. Once we power up our commander enough, this is a great way to deal indirect damage and control the board. Dictate of Erebos, whenever a creature we control dies, each opponent sacrifices a creature. Elemental Mastery, the enchanted creature can tap and put X 1/1 red elemental creature tokens with haste into play, where X is this creature's power. Fallen Ideal, the enchanted creature will have flying. We can also sacrifice a creature we control to give that creature +2/+1, and whenever Fallen Ideal is put into the graveyard from play, we can return it to our hand. Phyrexian Reclamation allows for some graveyard recursion. We can pay 1 in the black, 2 life, and we can return target creature card from our graveyard to our hand. Sleeper's Guile gives the enchanted creature fear, and whenever it's put into the graveyard from play, we can return it to our hand. And a personal favorite of mine, Vampiric Rites. We can pay 1 in the black, sacrifice a creature to gain a life, and draw a card. We will be including 1 Planeswalker, Chandra, Acolyte of Flame. The important part is her second 0 ability. We will create 2 1/1 red elemental creature tokens, they gain haste, and then we will sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step. For our sorceries, Call of the Death Dweller, we can return up to 2 target creature cards with total CMC 3 or less from our graveyard to the battlefield, put a Death Touch counter on either of them, then put a Menace counter on either of them. With Profane Command, we can choose 2. Target player loses X life. We can return target creature with CMC X or less from the graveyard to the battlefield. Target creature gets -X until end of turn, or up to X target creatures gain fear until end of turn. With Read the Bones, we can scry 2, draw 2, and lose 2 life. Sign in Blood, target player draws 2 and then loses 2 life. Thud, as an additional cost, we sack a creature. Thud deals damage equal to the sacrificed creature's power to any target. And Tormenting Voice, whenever we cast it, we discard a card to draw 2 cards. For our instance, Abnormal Endurance. Whenever the creature dies, we can return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. Altar's Reap, as an additional cost, we can sacrifice a creature to draw 2 cards. Aphotic Wisps will make target creature black until end of turn and gain fear. It also lets us draw a card. Burnt Offering, we will sacrifice a creature and then add any combination of red and black mana to our mana pool equal to the converted mana cost of that creature. Costly Plunder is an additional cost. We can sacrifice an artifact or creature to draw 2 cards. Dark Ritual gives us 3 black mana. With Fleeing, we can sacrifice a creature and then deal damage equal to that creature's power to any target. Psychotic Fury, target multicolored creature gains double strike until end of turn, and we draw a card. Soul's Fire, target creature we control deals damage equal to its power to any target. Supernatural Stamina, whenever this creature dies, we can return to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. Thrill of Possibility is an additional cost. We will discard a card to draw 2 cards. Undying Evil, target creature gains undying until end of turn. This means whenever it dies, if it had no +1/+1 counters on it, we can return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a 1/1 counter. And Village Rites is an additional cost. We will sacrifice a creature to draw 2 cards. We do have some legends helping out our commander. Anax, Hardened in the Forge. Whenever a non-token creature we control dies, we get a 1/1 red satyr creature token, but if the creature had power 4 or greater, we get 2 of those tokens instead. Captain Lannery Storm has haste, and whenever Captain Lannery Storm attacks, we get a treasure token. Also, whenever we sacrifice a treasure token, the captain gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Gadrak the Crown Scourge is a 5/4 dragon with flying. He can't attack or block unless we control 4 more artifacts, but at the beginning of the end step, we will create a treasure token for each non-token creature that died this turn. Garna the Bloodflame offers us some graveyard recursion. Whenever Garna enters the battlefield, we're going to return to our hand all creature cards in our graveyard that were put there from anywhere this turn. Judith the Scourge Diva gives other creatures we control +1/+0, and whenever a non-token creature we control dies, Judith deals 1 damage to any target. Any deck with an aristocrat's theme in it will not be complete without Sir Conrad. Whenever another creature dies, or a creature card is put into a graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, or a creature card leaves our graveyard, Sir Conrad deals 1 damage to each opponent. And Tago Goblin Weaponsmith. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under our control, we get a colorless equipment artifact token named Brock. We can also sacrifice those to deal 2 damage to any target. And for our not so legendary creatures, Blood-Soaked Champion, we can use the raid ability to get it back from the graveyard to the battlefield only if we attack with a creature this turn. Butcher of Malakir, whenever another creature we control dies, each opponent sacrifices a creature. Carry-On Feeder can't block, but we can use it to sacrifice a creature and it will get a 1/1 counter. When Demon's Disciple enters the battlefield, each player will sacrifice a creature or planeswalker. Dimir House Guard gives us a sack outlet which we can use to regenerate. We can also use it for transmute, and it has fear. Eradicator Valkyrie has flying, lifelink, and hexproof from planeswalkers. We can also use the boast ability to sack a creature and make each opponent sacrifice a creature or planeswalker. Fleshbag Marauder will enter and make each player sacrifice a creature. Goblin Instigator, whenever it enters, we get another 1/1 red goblin creature token. Gutter Bones enters tapped. We can also recur it with 1 in the black to return it from our graveyard to our hand. We can only do that if an opponent lost life this turn. Havoc Jester, whenever we sacrifice a permanent, will deal 1 damage to any target. Impulsive Pilferer, whenever it dies, we will get a treasure token. Mayhem Devil, whenever a player sacrifices a permanent, the Mayhem Devil deals 1 damage to any target. Merciless Executioner, whenever it enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature. Pitiless Plunderer, whenever another creature we control dies, we'll get a treasure token. Plague Crafter, whenever it enters, each player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker, and each player who can't will discard a card. Reassembling Skeleton, for 1 in the black, we can return it from our graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Ruthless Knave, we can pay 2 in the black to sack a creature and create 2 treasures, and then we can also sacrifice 3 treasures to draw a card. Sifter of Skulls, whenever a non-token creature we control dies, we will get a 1/1 Eldrazi Scion, which we can then sacrifice to generate colorless mana. Viscera Seer offers a nice sack outlet so we can scry 1. Wily Goblin, whenever it enters the battlefield, we will get a treasure token. And Zulaport Cutthroat, whenever Zulaport or another creature we control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and we gain 1 life. And last but not least is our mana base. We are including 2 lands that we can sacrifice to retrieve basic lands, Evolving Wilds, and Terramorphic Expanse. Beyond that, we will be including 17 basic swamps and 16 basic mountains. And just like that, we reached the end of this Commander deck tech. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, tell your friends about us, and leave a comment down below. Let us know what commanders you would like to see us build around in the future. We really appreciate your support.